Bantu lived a simple life. Every morning, with the first light of dawn, he would wake and head out to his small field. But his mind was always elsewhere. Deep in his heart, he held a love for Nyah, the daughter of the village's wealthy merchant. Nyah was the most beautiful girl in the village, admired by everyone, but for Bantu, she was much more. She was the only one who made his heart race, though he had never mustered the courage to confess his feelings. Bantu watched Nyah from afar every day, never daring to approach her. His best friend, Zola, tried to encourage him every chance he got. "Today's the day, Bantu," Zola would say. "You'll finally tell her how you feel." But every time Bantu tried, something went wrong. He would trip over his words or, worse, over his own feet. Once, when he was about to speak to her, he dropped a basket of fruit right in front of her, and everyone laughed. Bantu's clumsy attempts at confessing his love became a joke in the village, and Nyah's father, the wealthy merchant, would shoot him disapproving looks every time. One day, the village began preparing for the annual festival, where everyone gathered to dance, sing, and feast. Zola saw this as the perfect opportunity for Bantu to finally tell Nyah how he felt. "This is it, Bantu," Zola urged. "There will never be a better time." But Bantu, filled with fear and shame, couldn't bring himself to go through with it. He imagined himself tripping, making a fool of himself in front of everyone, especially Nyah. When the day of the festival arrived, the village square was buzzing with excitement. People were dressed in their finest clothes, and Nyah, as usual, was the center of attention, her radiant beauty capturing everyone's gaze. Bantu watched her from a distance, his heart pounding in his chest. Zola nudged him. "Now's your chance," he whispered. Bantu gathered his courage and took a step forward, carrying a plate of food he had brought for Nyah. But as he approached her, disaster struck. His foot caught on a stone, and he tumbled to the ground, sending the food flying. The entire village turned to look at him. Bantu, red-faced and mortified, scrambled to pick himself up. He noticed Nyah smiling softly at him, and for a brief moment, hope flickered in his heart. But that hope was short-lived. Nyah's father, the wealthy merchant, approached with a stern expression. He glared at Bantu, making it clear that he disapproved of him. To Nyah's father, Bantu was just a poor farmer, unworthy of his daughter's attention. Bantu's heart sank as he realized how impossible his love for Nyah seemed. As the days passed, Bantu's love for Nyah deepened, but so did his despair. Word spread quickly through the village that Nyah's father had arranged for her to marry the son of another wealthy merchant. The news hit Bantu hard. His dreams of being with Nyah shattered, and he couldn't bear the thought of her marrying someone else. Nyah, meanwhile, was torn. She admired Bantu's kindness and gentle nature, but her father's pressure weighed heavily on her. She didn't know how to follow her heart without disappointing her family. As the wedding day approached, the village buzzed with excitement. Bantu, however, was a shadow of his former self. He spent his days in his field, working the land with little energy, his heart heavy with sorrow. Zola tried to lift his spirits, but nothing could shake Bantu out of his despair. Even the land seemed to reflect his sadness. Once fertile soil had turned dry and barren, mirroring his hopeless love for Nyah. Finally, the day of the wedding arrived. The village square was packed with people singing and dancing, celebrating the big day. Bantu, unable to bear the thought of seeing Nyah with someone else, stood at the edge of the crowd, watching from a distance. His heart was heavy with grief, but he couldn't bring himself to leave. Zola stayed by his side, offering quiet support. As Nyah walked onto the stage with her groom, Bantu's heart broke. The ceremony was about to begin, and the crowd cheered as the groom took Nyah's hand. But then, something unexpected happened. Nyah hesitated. Her eyes swept over the crowd until they found Bantu, standing alone at the edge of the square. In that moment, Nyah knew what she had to do. Without warning, she pulled her hand away from the groom and ran. The crowd gasped as she fled the stage. Her father shouted in anger, and the groom stood there, stunned and speechless. Nyah ran through the crowd, her dress billowing behind her, heading straight for Bantu. She reached him, breathless and teary-eyed. "Bantu," she said, her voice trembling, "I can't do this. My heart belongs to you. I've been too scared to admit it, but it's true." Bantu was shocked. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was happening, he didn't know what to say. Zola gave him a nudge. "Now's your chance, Bantu." Taking a deep breath, Bantu found his voice. "Nyah, I love you too. But this has to be your choice. If you want to be with me, it has to come from you." Nyah turned to face the crowd, her father, and the groom, all of whom were staring in disbelief. "I choose Bantu," she said firmly. "I choose to live my own life with the man I love." The village was filled with murmurs of shock and excitement. Nyah's father was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Nyah had made her decision, and for the first time, she had stood up to her father. Bantu, overwhelmed with emotion, took her hand, and together they faced the crowd, united at last. In the end, Bantu and Nyah's love had triumphed. It hadn't been an easy journey, and the road was filled with obstacles and moments of doubt, but their love, like the dry earth that eventually welcomes rain, had persevered. Their story became a legend in the village, passed down through generations as a tale of love, courage, and defying tradition.